Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is February 10th, and welcome to your weekly review. Let's get into it. We've got some action going on in the market this week, don't we? So if you come over here to profitpilot.com, the newsletter that I just put out, talk about XLE. If you guys come in here, I'm going to show you actually in a little bit how I'm actually walking through this newsletter. So if you guys want to come check it out, you can see it in both fashions. But it's down here. I want to give a little teaser about that, and then we'll dive into it. So then let's go into the market today. If we come over to the S&P, yeah, we've been seeing some stuff. The news today was that one of the Fed chairmen said that they were thinking a 1% increase in the interest rates was necessary. That's a big deal. That's pretty spicy out there. And so that's why we saw the market basically bleed down and really close on its lows. Now, that is the news, but I've been looking at this just from the technicals, and so far the technicals really have just been lining up. And so this is really what I find fascinating about the market is that the technicals can say one something, but then like the news lines up with the other, which is really just amazing how that lines up sometimes. So I've been looking exactly at this pattern. I've been talking about it in regards to how NVIDIA had a very similar pattern before it started to roll over. But we can see that there was a double top there. You can see that there was negative divergence here on the Moxie indicator. And then we could not hold the 15-minute 50 today. So that was an important thing. And then up here on the hourly chart, you can see price ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending hourly 200. And then you can also see that price was running right into the underside of the daily 50. So I'm looking at this and kind of thinking this is the move down. Here's the bounce. And now we're going to have to see how price wants to come down. Is it going to only go down to the previous lows? We're going to bounce and then go lower. Like what's the path? What are we going to do? But I do think that we're going to be testing the lows. I've been kind of figuring that ever since we got the bounce. And really the question is, how do we go down and how is that going to be, what's the path basically? Then if we come over to the Nasdaq, we can see more or less the same thing. The Nasdaq and the S&P are looking very, very similar. Just that the Nasdaq is weaker because it's full of tech, and especially with the interest rates moving up right now. But basically, kind of the same pattern, just lower. And then if we look at the IWM, of course, it's the weakest of the bunch, but it's done some interesting things. And what we can see here is it did get really oversold and it had a little bit more room to move up. And we did see a lot of names move off the bottom on the growth type names. Now, some of them are getting hit. Like we looked at AFRM, that one had earnings come out and it just got clobbered. So these names that are bouncing off of the lows, they're still not an uptrend. I mean, you can go trade them short term, but don't think that they are like new bullish buys or anything. They're just bounces in a downtrend so far. They might be hammering out a bottom, but they are not really ready to go up. They're only a couple day or few day trends to the upside. So if we look at IWM as part of that representation, then we have price that ran right into the underside of the hourly 200, just like the Nasdaq. Well, the Nasdaq didn't quite do it, but the S&P. So same basic thing. And then you can see here price went up and the Moxie indicator went down like that. That was some negative divergence. So I would expect the IWM to continue lower at some point. There could be a little bit of chop in through here as it ping pongs between the 50 and the 200. So we're just going to have to see how that works out. But I do think lower is going to be the basic direction. Now, going back before that, one thing I did want to show is, let me get over here on the higher time frame charts. And let me get back over to the IWM. Something to note about the IWM when it had its kind of blow off top or a failed breakout, something to pay attention to on that. And then what we can see in through here is that it came down and got rejected by the underside of the daily 50. And then if we kind of move over here, we can see that price also, it was a little bit further, but basically it got rejected by the underside of the hourly 200. So take that idea and then let me show you a few more examples. We go over to Boot. This is something I actually keep talking about through StockChart TV, and that this was essentially right here. That was a blow off top. So be aware of something like this. You don't want to get suckered into it, and you can see exactly it just shot up and then rolled right back over, careening right through these moving averages. And then on the hourly, you can see also basically getting rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 200. and then it continued to peel off like that. So boot, blow off top on that one. And then if we look at DXCM, another one that basically had a blow off top. It was a little bit closer in through here. Kind of zoom in like that because it was right in through here on the weekly. And then we can see on the hourly, right in through there. And what we can see in through here is it bounced off the daily 50, shot up, and then promptly rolled right over. And what you can see here on the hourly chart is notice that that price was going up. Notice that the Moxie indicator was just nosediving off of a cliff. So this is some massive divergence that was really, really clearly seen. And if we look at price, you can actually see here was the Moxie price trigger giving you a heads up the day before this thing rolled over. That is how amazing that the Moxie indicator is sometimes. And you can see over here, look at that. You had another Moxie price trigger just as this thing was about to roll over and break this level. So this is amazing stuff from the Moxie indicator. You can even see it over there on the daily chart, but you had a price kept trying to move up, and the Moxie indicator was the thing that was telling you that there was a problem going on inside of price. If you were just looking at price, you might have thought this thing was doing just fine because price was going to be following the hourly 50. It looks like making new highs. Everything looks amazing. And then all of a sudden, the floor just falls out beneath it and this thing implodes. And if you didn't have something like the Moxie indicator, it wouldn't make any sense. But if you did, you could see like, oh, yeah, there's something going on. Like, oh, that's some real stuff going on and behind price, and that energy and momentum really coming out of it. So really good stuff coming out from the Moxie indicator. And then if we look here on the daily, you can see price got rejected by the underside of the daily 50. And then you can also see in through here, price doing a bear flag into the underside of a downtrending 200. So very similar to IWM, very similar to boot. That was DXCM. And then if we come over to SOXX, we kind of see the same thing. So what I've been kind of trying to call attention to is in through here, do that. And on the weekly time frame, you can see price just going normal, 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 and then boom, big move up there. It looks just like boot, doesn't it? And then you can see it's starting to roll back over. Now the question is it going to hold that weekly 50 SMA? I'm not so sure. So if you come over here, there's the Moxie price trigger. I think we also, let me get it on the hourly so we can see that. There you go. And look at that, for perfect timing. There's the Moxie price trigger as well, telling you that, hey, this thing's not going to be working out. And then you have the inverse trampoline move right there. So price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. It's an inverse trampoline move. And you can see price came down here. Okay, it's bouncing a little bit, but what's it doing? It is bouncing right into the underside of a downtrending daily 50 and right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 200. So this too looks like a bounce in a downtrend and looks like it's going to be rolling over even more. So if you're in any names like this, or you've been looking at something like this thinking, this looks great, it's been moving up. Well, I think it's personally, I think it's moving up into resistance, and I think these things are about to roll over and go further down. So do be careful about what it is you're doing out there. All right, so now XLP and XLE, those things that I wanted to show you. And let me kind of get over here actually and I want to show you a bigger chart. It's a little bit easier that way. So if we look at XLP, the thing that I wanted to cover is this form of negative divergence on the Moxie indicator. And then we come over here to the daily as well. And so what we can see is right here. Notice that the Moxie indicator basically goes flat right there, even though price kept moving up. That is a form of negative divergence. And what it's trying to tell you is, hey, energy and momentum is no longer going up. It's basically just coasting despite price going up. And that is a very strong signal that it's trying to communicate to you about energy and momentum inside of price. You can't see it with price. You need to have the indicator in order to see it. And then you can see right here, that's when the Moxie price trigger fired. That's when the Moxie indicator went negative. And that is right when price rolled over. So again, amazing timing on this. And then you can see price continue to get rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. Moxie indicator very much below 0. And then you can see it careened on down. And on the daily chart, what that was is up here at the third ATR, and it went all the way back down to the daily 50. So big deal of what's going on here. And what I want to show you, just kind of burn into your memory right there, that flat line on the Moxie indicator, despite price going higher. So if you take that of an example already worked, and then I show you XLE, and you see here, do you notice some similarities? Do you notice the Moxie indicator went flat right there despite price moving higher? And what do we just get? We got a Moxie price trigger. So what do we think is going to happen to this? What do we think to XLE? It's up here at that third ATR. What might happen? It could take a little bit of time, but what do we think is going to happen? It might do what XLP did, and it might go all the way back down to the daily 50. So careful. If you guys are in any of these things, if I know oil has been strong, but it sure looks to me like it is about to pull back and probably pull back in a very strong way. So that's XLE and then XLF. Mostly what I've been looking at with this one is that we're up here at a double top and the Moxie indicator has been staying below 0. That too is an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And you can see what happened last time that happened. So I'm looking at this again and saying, yeah, I bet this thing's going to roll over too. So do be careful out there. I think the financials are going to start getting hit also. Then we come over to Apple. And let me go over to this. So we got the daily, hourly, and 15. The other thing I want to point out, you can see here on the daily chart, we have the Moxie price trigger, right? That means the Moxie indicator is going below 0, negative, despite price being up. And then the other thing that I've been looking at and talking to my subscribers about is the 15-minute time frame. You can see that there's basically a double top, but look how negative that Moxie indicator is. And the other thing to note, I don't always talk about this because I don't talk too much about the 15-minute time frame, but everybody always asks me about the 2 lines on the 15-minute time frame. The purpose of them is that when they are very spread from each other, it means they're not really strong. So you can see that they were trending down, but they were spread from each other. So that meant that that direction wasn't very strong. That indication of down wasn't very strong, which is true. You can see that price basically held up for a little while. Now, look at this. Now the Moxie indicators look like one line. That means they do agree with each other. That means they are very strong in that direction. And that is something that needs to be paid attention to. So I'm looking at Apple. I think it's going to roll over. I don't know where it's going to go. I've heard some people target the daily 200. Yeah, seems reasonable. Probably at least going to come back down here to its previous low. So that is something that I would be looking at and thinking is very likely. So again, caution out there on the long side. Then we have AMD. And the biggest thing about this, had a big bounce, had earnings, and it just got really oversold. And that oversold move did come right into the daily 200. So, combination of previous price area, moving average, oversold, all that stuff, plus earnings, had this thing shoot up pretty good. But I was trying to tell anybody who was out there listening to me on Facebook and YouTube earlier this week, I said, yeah, the fundamentals don't matter right now. Some traders were saying, hey, no wonder why AMD had a good move up or gap up. It's because they had amazing earnings and good fundamentals. Like, okay, yeah, but that might carry it for a little bit. But the market is going to pull AMD over. The market is really going to guide where AMD goes. And right now, I just think that AMD kind of I think it's done as far as its move up. It came right up here into the underside of a downtrending daily 50. Look how far below 0 the Moxie indicator is. And it's pushed up into a downtrending hourly 200. And again, the negative divergence that we are seeing on the 15-minute time frame with that 15-minute Moxie tells me, yeah, I think this thing's about to roll over. So maybe you can trade a little bit to the short side, see where it goes, but I imagine it's probably going to come back down to its previous lows, at least. So we'll see if there's any opportunity there. And then Google, since this one's been talked about too, and kind of get that on the daily chart. I think some people were looking for a little bit more upside in through here, a little bounce in through there. And I was like, I don't think that's going to happen either. Part of my reason was look at the Moxie indicator here on the 15-minute time frame. Doesn't look good, does it? We got their spread, so they're not strong in any direction. One's above 0, one's below 0, or at least there were yesterday. Now they're both below 0. And price could not hold the 15-minute 50. So there's no trend here. There's nothing good here. In fact, this could keep going lower. And I think ultimately the reason is because if you look at the daily chart, I know price went really high, but if you look at the moving average, what is the daily 50 doing? It is angled down, and it is price is already punctured the daily 200, so that's looking weak. It couldn't stay up here. It's coming down here. It's probably going to go further. And look how low the Moxie indicator is. So yeah, obviously I'm very bearish on the market. Things are looking pretty rough out there. So I've got a lot of reason for it. Things are not going up, and when they do go up, they're not staying. So I think we need to be looking pretty much to the short side. Protect your long side if you need to, and then just realize that yeah, I think the market is just wearing out and having to reprice stuff. Now, maybe sometime in the future, once the correction is done, we can go back and go long and all that kind of stuff. But I think for right now, the long side is the dangerous side, and I think the short side is going to be the easy side. So that's what I'm looking at. All right, everyone, you enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll talk to you later.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.